Federal Workforce Fallout is sponsored by Prince George's Community College.
You're watching Federal Workforce Fallout, where each week we break down the impacts to our neighbors and the federal workforce. I'm Larry Miller, and we start with a breaking update this week. A federal judge ruling that Kari Lake's appointment as acting CEO of the U.S. Agency for Global Media was illegal. The court finding that Lake violated both the Constitution's Appointments Clause and the Federal Vacancies Reform Act when she took control of the agency last year. So here's what happened. Lake was never confirmed by the U.S. Senate. She started as a senior advisor, then became deputy CEO and eventually acting CEO, all without Senate approval. Now, during that time, she exercised 95% of the CEO's powers, and she signed off on layoff notices for 639 employees, shut down TV broadcasting operations, and made major personnel decisions. The judge's ruling, though, that every action that Lake took as acting CEO from July 31st to November 19th of 2025, including that August 25th reduction in force, is now void and cannot be ratified. It is a big win for hundreds of employees of the agency who have been away from the office on administrative leave for months. Now we wait to see how the Trump administration will in fact respond. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that. Many women who had established careers in government service have been forced to reinvent themselves after losing their jobs in the federal workforce fallout. Randy Hildreth spent time in Montgomery County learning about a program that's giving them a jump start.
Dr. Stephanie Ogeen was at a crossroads.
My term in the fellowship was coming to an end. It just ended recently, actually. And so I wanted to be proactive.
She joined the federal workforce in March 2022 as a White House Presidential Innovation Fellow. But the job search to land her next was tough.
With all of the rapid changes that were occurring last year, I feel like the universe was pushing me in this direction to try entrepreneurship.
She was one of 20 people who graduated from the first Founders Rising cohort through the Maryland Women's Business Center. The business development program launched in December 2025 for displaced federal employees and contractors.
It came at the right time for me.
I'm an expert at this field, but I don't know how to turn that expertise into a viable business model, and that's where we come in.
Karen Sipple is the managing director for the Maryland Women's Business Center. She says Maryland was hit hard with federal layoffs over the last year. In January, the state released a report showing nearly 25,000 federal jobs in Maryland were impacted by cuts in 2025.
Spanned government agencies. Think of all the ones that are here locally in Maryland, you name it, they're from it. Spent their entire life in government service. And then they got the rug pulled out from under them.
The 8-week program taught people how to develop a business concept and get the proper documentation to launch it. The first group finished in February.
And it is magical to see a group come together, start from here, and they haven't climbed the mountain yet, but they're on their way.
Ogeen has since launched her healthcare innovation consulting firm, Salt Perspectives.
I did officially launch, actually, this Tuesday. I officially launched, so I have my little LinkedIn page now and website. I'm honestly ready to work.
The Maryland Women's Business Center looks to launch its next session this summer. It is open to women and men. Now, the application isn't available yet, but you can submit an interest form for your name to go on the wait list. And listen, they are fundraising to continue to expand this program. We have all of the information posted on the WUSA News app right now. In Montgomery County, Randy Hildreth, WUSA 9.
The cuts to the federal workforce have touched all sorts of families and had a substantial impact on African-American families as well. Dr. Vanessa Weaver, CEO of Alignment Strategies and National President of Blacks in Government, David Groves, reflected on the last year.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time today. President Groves, I want to talk with you about sort of the year, if you can reflect on the year for us. 2025 saw seismic change in the federal workforce from the more than 300,000 federal workers that left and through various programs, terminations, layoffs, DRPs. Where are we right now and where do you think we're headed?
Great question. This has been a trying time for not just Black government employees, but all government employees. Uncertain times. You never know if you're going to come to work next week and the government going to be shut down. You never know if you're going to have a stable job like we did in the past. And for those of us that are African Americans, a government job was middle class to get into where we need to be. So that stability is not there anymore. I would say this to you, that as African Americans, we are doing the best we can. We're going to continue to work for our federal government and do the job that we were hired to do. Stability and mentally, one thing I share with our members is not only take care of your job, make sure you take care of your mental health. Because this is when they came in office, it was basically said we're going to do a shock and awe. And I think that we as African Americans, government employees, that we want to make sure that we find that foundation to not only take care of the individuals that we're assigned to take care of, but also take care of our families. So every day is a challenge. I guess that's the best way I can say it. Every day is a challenge.
And you're saying that as we're in the midst of a partial government shutdown right now, that's affecting thousands of workers, many of whom are not getting a paycheck.
Yeah. And that's the sad part. And those individuals, whether they TSA or whoever, they're showing up every day. I often revert back to, say, for instance, an individual nurse or someone works in a VA hospital that may not be getting a check, even though they are right now. We're just talking about Homeland Security and those. But times are different now. It used to be a rare conversation about a government shutdown. And now that's almost an everyday conversation. So how do we adjust? Those individuals come to work, but are they mental state the same as if they were getting a check? Because at the end of the day, they got to take care of their families. So it's a different time in America now, and we as leaders have to make sure that we're getting our members, our workers, the tools that they need to take care of their families. And can we do that?
So, Dr. Weaver, I want to bring you into the conversation now. When we think about the thousands of federal workers that left the workforce last year, and even the changes that we're seeing now, we know that this has an impact on Black families, the Black community, just surely because of the number of African-American workers that are represented in the federal workforce. And I think for some, they aren't able to necessarily prove it, but they feel it when they think about the cuts that are happening in the workforce and sort of the direct impact that this has, a particular impact that it's having on the Black community, that it feels like it's a bit heavy-handed, that they're getting hit from both sides here, and that they feel like there might be something also at work here, maybe a form of discrimination that they can't necessarily put their hands on, but they say they feel it.
Yeah. Well, many are saying they not only feel it, but the messages that they've heard and the actions that have been identified underscored that some of this is in play. For example, over 350,000 Black women lost their jobs as of August 2025. And many of those women were in many of those Black women had jobs in the federal government. And to David's point, the federal government was the entree point for the middle class lifestyle and the ability to comfortably take care of your family and be also a partner contributing to your family. And that got eliminated. And if you recall, one of the first actions in January, on the first day of our, first day of President Trump being sworn in, executive order was signed to eliminate DEI positions. And so it was not just a subtlety. It was really one of the first very covert actions. Obvious actions that was taken. And so people are feeling like there's been a disparate impact. And we also know that for those African Americans who, were executive levels in the federal government, many of them lost their jobs without knowing why, without really having clear performance feedback that indicated those jobs were supposed to be lost. So they really took the brunt of the first wave of many of the jobs being eliminated. So it does feel like, and more than feel like, it seems like it was a direct assault on Blacks in the federal government. Of course, Dave is president of Blacks in Government, so he can speak more directly to that. But I would tell you that's what I heard, and I would tell you that's what the data is saying. And we also know that the employment or the reemployment rate for Blacks who lost jobs in the federal government is much, much slower than that for other ethnicities. And so it seems like they were targeted, and also it seems like there's less receptivity or willingness to invest in them, rehiring them in some of these jobs.
President Groves, I want to get your take on this. Do you feel that there is something deeper going on here, something a bit more covert?
Dr. Weaver actually hit the nail on the head. When we look at DE&I, as a former, before I retired from the federal government, I was a senior level official in EEO. When you look at DE&I, those jobs were generated and partaked by white females. Let's be very clear about that. But I agree with Dr. Weaver that if you look at numbers, I guarantee you that there's been a very disparate impact on African Americans through these cuts, rifts, layoffs, and everything else. But as we move forward, my focus has been to Blacks in government members, how do we train ourselves to be prepared for the next wave? And what do I mean by that? I think the targeted layoffs has been discriminatory, don't get me wrong. But we should not let that impact us, because we should be prepared for the next administration to come and get these jobs back. So that's, I don't know no other way to say it. I think Dr. Weaver said it best. This did have a negative impact on our Black community.
And I'll say also, David, and when you think about the business, the DEI as it relates to government contracts, interestingly, more white females were impacted by those cuts. Where they got preferential, I don't say preferential, but they got an opportunity to bid for larger contracts because of their disadvantaged status as women. Those cuts impacted significantly a lot of white women. And so I won't say it's at the same level that ours is. The data will surely show that when we have an opportunity to clearly see what the data is. But there's been a pretty significant impact across a whole lot of groups.
So I think that has us wondering, President Groves, you've talked about sort of preparing for the next wave. Is this something that you can necessarily prepare for if it is sort of strategic in the way this is all taking place? I mean, it seems like, preparation or not, they're going to do what they say is in their best interest. And to be clear, the administration says that these cuts are about efficiency, and that the dismantling of DEI wasn't, it was about meritocracy, making it equal for all, and that DEI was, adversely favoring some as opposed to others, and that sort of having a policy of meritocracy creates a level and equal playing field for everyone, no matter who they are. I want to stop right there really quickly to just those points from the administration. What do you say to that?
And I think those are excellent points. But let me say this. As a historical African-American brother, this is here for today. I'm a firm believer this is not here for life. I'm a firm believer that Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, how do we prepare for the future? And I think this is a time now for us as African Americans to say this is a moment. I'm going to say that again. This is a moment. How do we prepare ourselves to better prepare our children to be the next barrier in carrying this torch forward? And I think we're in this moment right now. We as African American males, we didn't turn out to vote last election. And we let ourselves down with Vice President Harris. So my point is educate, even though they took the books out of our schools, that shouldn't stop us from educating our kids. So we are at a point in life right now. How do we prepare ourselves for the future? And that's what I'm saying. They're putting bricks up, but at the same time, we can have hammers to knock those bricks down. We just got to do a better job of raising our communities. And I think we have got comfortable and we stopped doing that. This is an eye awakening for me as a president of Blacks in Government to say, let's do a better job of strengthening our young Black males. You know, we are more than ever killing each other. We're more than ever putting bad stuff in our community. We as African Americans got to do better, and I think we will after this. I'm a firm believer in that, sir.
All right. Well, Dr. Weaver, kind of considering that point, what sort of impact does this have on a community when they feel like they're sort of, kind of up against the wall based on the experiences that they have? That, it's almost like damned if I do, damned if I don't, right? Like I just can't seem to get a leg up. And I'd imagine that has to leave you emotionally, mentally drained and fatigued.
Yes. Well, I was going to thank you for that question. I mean, there are multiple levels of impact. One is personal on the individual, and then the second is on families, as David has indicated, and then the third is on our communities. And if you talk about the individual impact, studies from Harvard Psychological Association and other federal government studies have shown that there's been a significant impact on the emotional well-being of employees in the federal government. For those who are still there, in particular, they report chronic issues with chronic fatigue, chronic insomnia, hypervigilance, meaning, looking at everything, trying to figure out, is today the day that they're going to drop the hammer on me? Lack of clarity around what really is my deliverable. I'm here to do a job. I always had an identity for a particular job, a particular pride in doing that job. Now I'm not really so clear about what that job truly is and how I'm going to be evaluated on that job. A lot of the protections that had been afforded federal government employees in terms of collective bargaining rights, having a union that was empowered to the point where they could really advocate on your behalf. A lot of those are in question now. And so folks are feeling less protected and more vulnerable. And so when you feel less protected, more vulnerable in the security of your job, then it really decreases your willingness to be innovative on the job, looking at better ways to deliver on the objectives and the mission of the job. It speaks to feeling more paranoid of the job and unclear and unsure of what the job is and how you're going to be evaluated. And so people are really, I call it workforce PTSD. Folks are feeling very traumatized and very unnerved. I can't even tell you how many people I've spoken to who talk about the amount of aspirins or pain counter relievers that they take before they go into work just to be able to navigate through the day. And some just say that they have anesthetized themselves against all of the external messages because they're so demeaning and so negative about their own competence and their own commitment to the job. So people are feeling really pretty stressed out. And I talk a lot about the supervisors because right now I think it's so important for the supervisors to be able to step in and to create some kind of, sanity might be too dramatic a word, but to create some stability in the teams and in the workplaces where they have responsibility. Because the employee is still looking to that supervisor to communicate to them what's happening, to be truthful to them. They're looking for to that supervisor to have some understanding of the trauma that they're feeling through no fault of their own. I mean, this situation wasn't created by the employee; it was created by decisions that were beyond their control. They're looking for some clarity in terms of what is the direction of the team and how are they going to work together. So I'm really, and I know you've heard me say this a lot, Larry, but I'm really appealing to those supervisors to really understand how important a role they have to play. So we're beyond arguing about what's the restructuring necessary or the right thing. It really is now about how do we create some stabilization in the federal workforce so people can really step up and be their best selves and contribute at the levels or beyond the levels that they contributed before. And it's going to be those supervisors who are interacting day to day with those employees that are going to be really critical in producing some more of that stability and sanity in the workplace.
Mr. Groves, how would you describe the current state of Black federal workers right now? Are they anxious? Are they fearful?
I would say they are at a place to where they want to come to work and do their job every day. They want to do their job to the best of their abilities. But when you don't know the uncertainty, that keeps you off balance. I would say our members of Blacks in Government, we're going to show up and show out, no matter what. But again, the uncertainty is there. I think things, from talking to our employees, seems a little more settled, a little more stable now than a year ago. But at the same time, you don't want to come to work and not knowing, as Dr. Weaver said, your performance can be outstanding, but you may be the next number that they crossing off the list. And I don't know no other way to put it.
Yeah, I'd imagine that leaves people. Go ahead, Dr. Weaver.
I was going to say, without the protections that they were customarily afforded.
Yeah.
So now the fear is that I can be terminated from my jobs because the collective bargaining rights are not what they used to be, might be non-existent, or there's an attempt to let people off without any clarity on the criteria. People don't understand what the criteria was for the layoffs that other people that they work with every day experience, and now they're gone. So there's no reason that they feel it's going to be any clearer to them. And that's why I think that role of the supervisor becomes so critical right through now.
Yeah. And not only that, Dr. Weaver, and I'm sorry, Brother Larry, but they're going after SESs now.
Yeah.
You know, so SESs is the senior executive individuals, employees that's got the knowledge to make these wheels keep turning. And you targeting them now to bring in folks that has no clue. I mean, that's a lot to come to work to every day. And expect me to do an omen's job every day. So it's a different ballgame now.
And the federal employee, whether they were Black, Latina, Asian, or white, they had a real strong pride in the work that they do. And many of us outside of the federal government don't even understand what their work is. We just know that machine was operating. So until you go through TSA and one day you could, use a certain ID and the next day you don't really know what to do. Until you get inconvenienced, we don't really appreciate the enormity and the critical role that the federal worker was and still is playing to make our lives easier.
But what does the next year look like for Blacks in government, Mr. Groves?
We are, Blacks in government is here to stay. We've been around 50 years. And we're not going anywhere. As far as stability, Is there a little bump on the road? Yes, there is. I'll be the first to say that as national president, I lose a lot of sleep thinking them I'm doing enough for our members. But I am a firm believer in that we're going to be around. I think we are more important today than we were yesterday. It's a matter of the message that we get out to our members, the stability message we get out to our members, and letting them know that we are here for you and we're going to keep fighting. One of the things I have been sharing with our members is that we have to become more involved, even though we're a 501c3. We have to become more involved in the political aspect and making sure that we're educating our families, our members on everything about being involved in the electoral process to have an imprint on where we go as a community. And we will start that this year, sir.
Dr. Weaver?
In terms of moving forward, well, for those people who still maintain their jobs, maintain their employment, I think it's really important, as Dave said earlier, to get really clear about your own mental state. You know, that because many times we're in denial about the stress that we're feeling. And it's what I call a lot of walking wounded people out there. So getting clear about your own mental status is really important. And recognizing doesn't mean that you're less than or you is something like freaky or weird about you. It's not. You know, you're responding to a series of events, unrelenting events over the last year that have impacted you. And once you identify what your stress level, seek some help, either from Blacks in Government or from your employee assistance program or for an external program. There are several churches in the community that have coaching and assistance that they're providing, but seek some help. Don't try to mask that pain that you're feeling, that confusion that you're feeling. Step out and get some help to do that. And then create a plan. Create a plan, because what's really we found is most helpful for individuals is that if they have some sense of what is their, I'm staying in the government plan, and then what is the plan I have if I need to exit the government. So have a plan that really addresses both of those. And then start making sure you're communicating with your family and your close friends. You know, we have talked about there's been an increase in domestic violence. You know, people are feeling frustrated and striking out at the people that are closer to them. So it's affecting families, it's affecting family security. And so there needs to be some open discussions about what is happening and how is it showing up in the family or with your friends. And then by all means, execute on your plan. Don't just have a plan that you've written out and then you just, you know, it's just sitting there. But have a plan where you're actually following, saying, these are the milestones that I'm going to put in place for myself. And by this particular date, I want to have moved on a couple of those. And then don't try to do it all at one time, but stagger your milestones and then set your plans and steps to achieve them.
Yeah. And Mr. Miller, if I may just chime in for 1 second, sir.
Yeah, please, sir.
I think Dr. Weaver summed up everything that we need to be talking about. But I wanted her message to go to African-American males, because too many times we are too proud to go get that help. We need to do it right now to sustain our families, our communities, and our future history. So she said it best. I hope her message will sit well with African-American males. Thank you, sir.
You can count on us to stay on top of the reductions to the federal workforce and its impacts. In the meantime, scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you to a special section of WUSA9.com dedicated to our coverage of this story. And of course, we'll keep you updated right here on federal workforce fallout. We appreciate you being here. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.
You've learned a lot in life, on the job, in the military, raising a family. At Prince George's Community College, that experience can count as college credit. You could earn up to 15 college credits towards your degree just for what you already know. Eligible Prince George's County grads can even attend tuition-free with the Promise Scholarship. So what's your game plan? Turn your journey into a degree at Prince George's Community College.